for, that in fact there is a new era of political pluralism in Egypt, one that allows for a wide spectrum of political parties, and that the leadership of this country, the political leadership of this country, is expected to work together. There's no doubt that the Muslim Brotherhood, while officially at one point banned, now is trying to get involved in the political arena. They have been very vocal. They have been very present in the Tahrir protests in the last couple of weeks. For them today to be standing side by side with the new prime minister shows you really a symbol of national unity across all Egyptians. You can't emphasize it enough. Off to my left here, there's a flag that has the Egyptian flag with both the crescent and the cross representing Egypt's Christian minority. So there's no doubt that a tone of national unity is trying to be struck by all of Egypt's new official leadership.
Ayman, you and I spoke many times in the 2 weeks before the fall of President Hosni Mubarak. I'm struck by the difference in the atmosphere behind you there, the noise of the crowd today compared to how it was a few weeks ago in Tahrir Square.
Well, you know, you would be surprised to see that so many of those same feelings are still very much present as they were that night, February 11th, when President Mubarak stepped down. I mean, ever since then, Egypt has been through quite a lot, both in the terms of anxiousness, nervousness, and a sense of euphoria. But you can safely say that today, the momentum remains with the people of Egypt. They once again have made another astounding victory, if you will, in the sense that since the departure of President Hosni Mubarak, they have been demanding the ousting of that Prime Minister Ahmed Shafi and other members of his cabinet. They now have a new Prime Minister, one whose name they put forth. So it is by all measures of the word a concession by the Supreme Council to the protesters in Tahrir Square. And that is why the atmosphere behind me is once again electric, once again indeed very celebratory and very festive, as we've seen from Tahrir over the past several weeks.
Ayman, many thanks. Ayman Mukhildeen live there in Tahrir Square in Cairo. Let's move now geographically south and east to Iraq, where security forces have used water cannon and batons against anti-government demonstrators in the southern city of Basra. Protests have been staged right across the country today, including in the capital, Baghdad. They're calling for improved services, better pay, and an end to corruption. It's the second Friday in a row that Iraqis have come out on the streets to protest. Our correspondent Jane Araf was at the demonstration in Baghdad.
Thousands of people have walked for hours to come to this square. They're walking around the circle and ending up at the foot of this bridge where the riot police are. Now, these police are here to prevent protesters from going further, and they have taken the unprecedented step of putting concrete blocks at the foot of the bridge. This entire city overnight has been transformed into a fortress. The green zone sealed off, concrete placed around major buildings, and people told they can only walk. Despite that, thousands of people have come to chant that they believe that the government they elected are liars, and they demand better.
Jane Araf in Baghdad. Now let's take you to Yemen in the north of the country. It's been reported that at least 2 people have been killed and another 7 wounded. Shia Muslims say that the military fired rockets at anti-government protests in Amran province. There have also been protests in the capital, Sana'a. Our correspondent Hashim Al-Bara is there. Hashim, what's the latest?
Well, the Houthis issued a statement saying that they were organizing a huge gathering in the city of Sufyan in the province of Amran, which is a Houthi stronghold north of the capital Sana'a, when rockets were fired from an army base targeting the crowd. 2 at least were killed and dozens injured. But we got also a statement from security forces here in the capital Sana'a dismissing the account of the Houthis, saying that what happened was that security forces in a checkpoint prevented tribesmen armed to enter the city, because you know a law has been put into place about years ago which prevents armed people from getting into the cities. But people did challenge the ban and decided to use force to storm the checkpoint. So clashes ensued. 3 tribesmen were injured and 4 security forces were also injured in the clashes.
So Hashim, what's the situation on the streets now? Are people still demonstrating?
The crowds are starting to disperse. Huge display, show of force today in the capital, Sana'a. Thousands of government loyalists gathered on the Tahrir Square after the Friday prayers, chanting slogans, denouncing the protesters as enemies of the state, conspiring with foreign forces to try to destabilize Yemen. At the same time, there was a parallel protest, or the biggest so far, of the anti-government protesters on the University Square, with opposition leaders taking to the podium telling people this is going to be a protracted fight and you have to hold up, you have to continue their fight, and that eventually they will be able to force out Ali Abdullah Saleh.
Hashim, many thanks indeed. Hashim Al-Halbara reporting live there from Yemen. North and west now to Tunisia, a country that's still struggling to restore stability after its president was ousted back in January. The 24th of July has been set for the people to elect a council that will draft a new constitution. And now the caretaker prime minister has given his first speech to the nation.
At this time, we're facing difficult responsibilities. As I said before, and a lot of colleagues here present know that in this government, which I'll be honored to head, all those who would like to leave, please feel free to do so. But all those who would like to stay and work, the door is open, and we will help each other and facilitate it. And we will call on our people to help us and give us, at this short period of time, the benefit of the doubt. And then, after that, they will have the right to judge our behavior.
Well, tens, perhaps hundreds of thousands of people from right across the Arab world are once again taking to the streets of their countries to protest against their governments and to call for political, social or economic reforms. Let's take a closer look now at what exactly is happening and explain why with Lawrence Lee.
Yes, Adrian, thank you. As we've been seeing, from Tunisia in the west all the way to Oman and Bahrain in the east, the popular movements have gained momentum and confidence since the start of the year, prompting comparisons with the collapse of the Soviet Union more than 2 decades ago. Yet one of the key differences is that the demands of the protesters differ from country to country. Well, clearly the current focus is, of course, on Libya, which seems increasingly mired in deadlock. Protesters to the east maintaining their grip on cities there, while forces loyal to Gaddafi keep a stranglehold over Tripoli. In Tunisia, meanwhile, where all this began, protesters continue to demand early elections to try to break the political stalemate that's followed the ousting of former President Ben Ali. Egypt, meanwhile, seems to be making the most progress with the appointment of a prime minister sympathetic to the aims of the revolution, though the army is still grappling with its new role. In Jordan, the demands are different again. Protesters calling for political plurality, for the king to take on a more symbolic role and the formation of a more powerful parliament. While in Iraq, the anger's aimed at the existing political elites accused by the protesters of rampant corruption. Many of the demands here are linked to unemployment and poverty. In the Gulf, meanwhile, protesters in Bahrain want more political rights and better living conditions, while in Oman, demonstrations are